Ego is the silent killer of growth because it convinces you that you are already enough, already complete, already at the top. And when you start believing that, you close the very doors that were meant to elevate you. Ego whispers in your ear, you don't need to learn more. You don't need to listen. You don't need to improve. And that soft whisper becomes the loudest barrier between you and the person you are meant to become. My friend, growth requires humility. And humility requires the courage to say, I don't know everything. I still have a long way to go. Teach me, guide me, help me. But ego hates these words because ego thrives on the illusion of perfection. It loves to keep you in a cage where you feel superior but remain stagnant. And the saddest truth is that ego doesn't scream. It slowly numbs your ability to self-reflect. It doesn't attack you, it blinds you. It stops you from learning new skills, stops you from accepting feedback, stops you from understanding other perspectives, stops you from evolving emotionally. Ego makes you defend your mistakes instead of correcting them, justify your flaws instead of working on them, blame others instead of taking responsibility. That is how silently, without noise, ego kills your potential. You think you are protecting your dignity, but in reality, you are protecting your limitations. You think you are being strong, but actually you are staying stuck. Growth demands discomfort, and ego avoids discomfort at all costs. Growth requires breaking patterns, and ego clings to them desperately. Growth asks you to admit your weaknesses, and ego convinces you that having weaknesses makes you unworthy. My dear friend, the greatest favor you can ever do for yourself is to silence that ego and open your heart to learning again, to listening again, to understanding again. Because the moment ego dies, your growth is reborn and you begin to rise with a clarity, humility, and strength that ego could never give you. True strength comes from accepting flaws because the moment you allow yourself to be real, raw, and imperfect, you unlock a level of power that ego can never give you. Ego wants you to pretend you're flawless, to act like you have everything under control, to show the world a version of yourself that is polished and perfect. But that perfection is a trap, my friend. It exhausts you. It isolates you. It forces you to wear a mask that eventually suffocates your soul. Real strength begins the moment you say, yes, I have weaknesses. Yes, I make mistakes. Yes, I am still learning. And instead of feeling ashamed, you feel liberated. Because acknowledging your flaws is not admitting defeat. It is admitting that you are human, and humans grow, humans improve, humans evolve. When you accept your flaws, you stop fighting reality and start working with it. You stop pretending and start progressing. You stop hiding and start healing. And there is nothing more powerful than a person who knows their imperfections yet still chooses to rise, still chooses to try, still chooses to transform. Ego tells you that flaws make you look weak, but in truth, denying them is what weakens you. When you accept your flaws, you make space for growth, for learning, for wisdom. You open your heart to feedback, to guidance, to change. You become gentler with yourself and kinder with others because you realize that everyone is fighting their own silent battles. Accepting your flaws doesn't lower your worth, it deepens your character. It gives you emotional maturity, resilience, and clarity. It teaches you that perfection is not the goal, progress is. And the moment you embrace your imperfections with courage, humility, and honesty, you begin to build a life rooted in authenticity, not ego. A life where your strength comes not from pretending to be flawless, but from having the bravery to evolve every single day. Great relationships thrive when ego dies, because connection is not built on pride, competition, or the need to be right. It is built on understanding, empathy, and the willingness to meet each other halfway. Ego turns every conversation into a battlefield where you want the last word, where you want to prove your point, where you want to protect your image instead of protecting the bond. And the painful truth is that ego doesn't just create distance. It creates silence, misunderstandings, and emotional walls so high that even love struggles to climb over them. When you let ego take the lead, You stop listening to understand and start listening only to reply. You stop caring about feelings and start caring about winning. You stop valuing the other person and start valuing your pride. But relationships don't break because people stop loving each other. They break because ego becomes louder than love. The moment you soften, the moment you say, "Let me try to understand you, let me see things from your side, let me apologize even if it hurts my pride," that is the moment connection begins to heal. Real strength in relationships is not about dominating. It is about cooperating. It is not about always being right. It is about being willing to make things right. Ego makes you defensive, but love makes you open. Ego makes you stubborn, but empathy makes you flexible. Ego wants you to hold grudges, but emotional maturity teaches you the power of letting go. When you drop your ego, you allow space for meaningful conversations, deeper trust, and genuine intimacy. You begin to value peace over proving a point, understanding over arguing, harmony over ego battles. And that is how relationships become stronger. When two people choose humility over pride, compassion over conflict, connection over ego, every single time. Ego blinds you from opportunities because it convinces you that you already know enough, that you are already doing enough, that you don't need help, guidance, or new experiences. And that, my friend, is the most dangerous lie ego can ever tell you. Opportunities don't always come with a loud knock. Sometimes they appear quietly, disguised as advice, as feedback, as collaboration, as someone offering to teach you something new. But when ego is in control, you ignore these moments because you think lowering your guard means lowering your value. In reality, ego doesn't protect you. It restricts you. It builds a cage where you feel superior but remain stuck in the same place, repeating the same patterns, missing the same chances again and again. When ego leads, you refuse to admit your mistakes, and those mistakes turn into barriers. When ego leads, you reject constructive criticism, and that rejection becomes the reason you don't grow. When ego leads, you walk away from people who could elevate you simply because you don't want to feel like a beginner again. But remember this, every expert was once a beginner. Every leader was once a learner. Every opportunity requires humility to recognize it and courage to accept it. When you let go of ego, your eyes open. Suddenly you begin to notice the small doors life kept offering you. You begin to appreciate the wisdom of others. You begin to understand that every person you meet knows something you don't. You start seeing possibilities where previously your pride saw nothing. Humility doesn't make you small, it makes you available. Available for new knowledge, new relationships, new chances, new directions. The moment ego steps aside, life begins to reveal paths you didn't even know existed, and you realize that the opportunities you were searching for were always there. You just needed the vision to see them. Letting go of ego opens the door to inner peace, because ego is the very thing that keeps your mind restless, your heart heavy, and your soul constantly fighting battles that don't even matter. Ego makes you compare your life with others, chase validation, seek approval, and defend yourself even when there is nothing to defend. It keeps you in a state of tension where you must always prove something. Prove your worth, prove your success, prove your strength. But peace is never found in proving. Peace is found in being. When you release ego, you stop fighting unnecessary wars inside your own mind. You stop replaying arguments. Stop overthinking judgment. And stop trying to control every narrative. You begin to realize that not every comment deserves a reaction. Not every opinion needs to be challenged. Not every misunderstanding requires a battle. You learn to breathe, to step back, to say, "It's okay. I don't need to win every time." And that, my friend, is where true peace begins. Ego attaches your happiness to how others see you, but inner peace attaches your happiness to how you see yourself. Ego makes you seek perfection, but peace welcomes your imperfections with grace. Ego tells you that slowing down means falling behind, but peace teaches you that slowing down allows you to rise aligned, clear, focused. When ego softens, your heart finally has space to feel gratitude instead of resentment, compassion instead of judgment, understanding instead of reaction. You begin to forgive more easily, listen more deeply, love more openly. You begin to accept that everything doesn't have to go your way, and you don't always have to be the hero of the story. Peace comes when you stop trying to control the world and start learning to control your inner world. And that control begins the moment you let ego melt away and allow your soul to breathe freely, calmly, confidently, without fear or pressure from the outside world. Winning in life is not about being better than others. It is about being better than your past self. And this is a truth ego never wants you to understand. Ego constantly pushes you into a race you were never meant to run. A race of comparison, competition, and insecurity. It convinces you that someone else's success somehow threatens your own, that someone else's progress means you are falling behind. But real success has nothing to do with outshining others. It has everything to do with outgrowing who you were yesterday. When you let go of ego, you stop chasing external approval and start chasing internal evolution. You stop asking, how do I look compared to them? And start asking, how can I improve myself today? That shift changes everything. Because life is not about standing on a higher step than others, it is about climbing your own staircase, with honesty, patience, and discipline. Ego may give you temporary satisfaction when you feel superior, but that feeling fades fast. Growth, however, stays with you. It strengthens you quietly, deeply, consistently. When you stop comparing, you start focusing. When you stop competing with others, you start competing with your own fears, your own habits, your own limitations. And that competition is the one that truly matters. Ego wants you to pretend, but progress wants you to practice. Ego wants shortcuts, but growth wants commitment. Ego wants applause, but self-improvement wants effort. When you choose to become a better version of yourself, more patient, more disciplined, more emotionally aware, more kind, you begin to win in life in the most authentic way. You start feeling proud, not because you are above anyone, but because you rose above your old patterns. And that is the victory that stays, the victory that transforms, the victory that builds a life of meaning, fulfillment, peace, and purpose. Not because you beat others, but because you finally learned how to rise beyond yourself.